Hi, hi, hi. Good morning, good evening, good night. We are on our 6th session of the EEConQuest, which is crazy that we're almost halfway through the day already. And I'm still breathing and I'm still going okay, and that's good. But yeah, so excited to have everyone on board talking about nerdy neuroscience networking today. So let's get ourselves started. So yeah, like I said, we're back for session 6. Just want to give a little heads up to people who haven't joined in. We have Shannon joining in for the 6th session in a row, which is fabulous. But yeah, if you're joining in for the first time or if you're catching up on the recordings, this is a 12-hour day of learning called EEConQuest. And we have missions, we have different things that you can check up on and share across the world. And the whole point of it is just to ignite our flames and to come together and try and move forward with education. So you can try and find out more about their sessions and catch up on them at bit.ly/EEConQuest 2021. And it's a completely free session, a completely free conference, but we are trying to raise money for a mental health charity in New Zealand called Youthline. And so if you can donate, that would be great. It's bit.ly/EEYouthline. And if you can't donate, please share it with your community so then that can share it wider into the audience as well. So we're going to get all of our people on the screen now joining in with us, which is fabulous. I'm so excited to have everyone on the show. And yeah, you can let us know a little bit more about yourselves on the show as well. So we will start with Eileen. I'm going to put my little flame up and just let people know about this segment. So as part of one of the missions, we're asking people what fuels your mission, what ignites your passion. Some people have created their flames. Some people are just going to talk about it and let us know about them too. So Eileen, what ignites you? What ignites your flame? What's your passions? Let us know.
So I actually, after I flew from Kuwait to Boston, and I'm still awake in Boston, so I was able to put my flame together. I love these missions. Thank you so much for putting this all together, Naomi. So my passions and my flame are belonging, and of course, self-belonging, that self-confidence, self-efficacy, personal belonging with those relationships that are so important to everybody, and also my professional belonging. And that goes to my connections, which I'm so grateful for because I live so far away from so many of the people that I really care about, family and friends, and my PLN. And so, and then most importantly to me, at the end, is to become a good ancestor and to leave a legacy for others to follow and for me to be proud of, something that I've worked towards. So that's my flame.
Love it. Thank you so much, Eileen. Thank you so much for joining in. Like Shannon said, dedication coming over from Kuwait to Boston, and then coming and joining in. So thank you so much. And that legacy is definitely happening with all the things you're sharing. So thank you so much for coming on today. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Harvey saying Gia Ditch, that's a bit of Irish going on, and that's about as much Irish as I know. But yeah, welcome back. We have a couple people coming in for their 6th session as well, with Ken saying dedicated to. So thank you so much for coming and joining in. Andrea, let us know a little bit about your flame, what ignites your passions, what's a little bit about yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I am a lifelong learner with my flame, and of course I don't have my flame open to the flame page, but I love doing this. This was fun, but I don't know, can you see
beautiful me? Yeah,
it's not as nice as yours. I liked all your colors, but basically lifelong learning is why I do the podcast. It's more for me as well to keep going with lifelong learning. Health, well-being is a huge value for me, which is the angle of the podcast, not just the neuroscience and social emotional learning, but connecting how we can improve productivity and results through health and well-being. So that was fun to just reconnect and see also how it changes over the years, because health kind of came in a weird place or wasn't expecting it. It just kind of showed up. And then we've been diving deep into health, and even more so, I just will be releasing one tomorrow on the cells and how the cells impact learning and disease and health. And it's just phenomenal. Lifelong learning for me.
That's so good. I think like Shannon said, it's so excited to have you back on the show again, talking about the neuroscience and talking about that, because she's really enjoyed the podcast and looking into it. So yeah, thank you so much for all the work that you do. And Luelle, let us know a little bit about you. What's your flame? What's your passions? Thank you for coming on a bit early. You're a bit early in your day. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's okay. So I did not print out, but I quickly took my pens and drew all of the things out there. I also love color, so I added some color in there. And I've added stuff like joy and music and inclusion, collaboration, kindness, and connection, and bringing in hope. So all of those things are really important to me, and it's what really keeps me going here, being far away from family as well. So yeah, that's me.
And just let us know where you're based.
I'm in Abu Dhabi in the UAE, and I've been here for about 6 years now, but I'm originally from South Africa.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, so Kuwait and UAE and America and all those different things. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your different things. So we're going to watch a little clip together. It's only a little 40-50 minute clip from Yania, who can't be on the show today because of time zone, because of all those things, but she shared amazing work that she has with us, and you can see her little link where you can find her amazing work as well, and then we'll reflect on what Yania has said. So I'm going to put up a little video, and I hope you enjoy. See you on the other side.
Now we are going to we talked about brain-friendly space design. Now we are going to talk about brain-friendly instruction. So space design, we touched on that and the 3 elements, and now instruction, again, following those 3 elements. Students spend many hours at school and their brains can be overwhelmed if the instructional strategies are not balanced. As teachers, we need to balance our instruction in a way that we can engage and energize, focus, and calm our students' brains. Strategies from each category can be used in one lesson or throughout the school day to make sure your students have the time to be engaged and energized, be also focused and calm.
So like I said, you can see Yania's work at lets.celebrate.learning on Instagram, and you can get this brain tips resource, bit.ly/e brain tips. Lots of great takeaways from that. But I think for me, the question that I wanted to offer us to talk about is, she talked about how we can get learners can be overwhelmed if we don't think about our instruction, and how we can find a balance between the focus, the calm, and the engaged, different strategies talked about. So what brain tips and strategies or research do you use in your learning design, or have you learned about, to help your learners set up for success and make sure you have inclusive practices? So yeah, Eileen, we'll start with you. Let us know a little bit about your learning and what you've done with that.
Yeah, so my journey, and I mentioned belonging as part of my main flame, has been about belonging, especially the last couple of years, trying to figure out how I'm able to live in Kuwait, where I've been since 1984, and raise a family, and also feel at home when I come back to the US. And so belonging is that central idea also for our students. Very important to have that energy, to have that focus, and to feel that calm. So some of the strategies that I've learned about, that I've used, especially with language learners, which of course Lua knows also, and I'm sure that Andrea does too. With language learners, there's this sense of not wanting to experiment and not wanting to fail. So they tend not to have a lot of confidence. So some of the strategies are making sure that we create those relationships with our students, that we create that relationship and respect within the classrooms, so that everybody feels a safe space, and to feel that there is trust and respect, so that they can share their stories. So it's really important that they feel they can be vulnerable in front of everybody else. It takes time, but if we start right from day one, then they are able to really feel that sense of calm. And also, it's something that I had mentioned to you also when we were recording our podcast episode, Naomi, is the polyvagal theory, which is something that was recently discovered within the last 10 to 15 years. And it involves the neurosystem, the brain, and the vagus nerve, which is the largest nerve and connects all the major organs. And so because of it, and because of its nature, and it's such an ancient system in primates, in human beings, just facial expressions and the way we hear certain sounds will automatically set our bodies off for fight and flight. So we want to make sure that even our body language is something that creates that calm and allows our students to feel they're in a safe space. So whatever we can do in terms of creating those relationships and creating that safe space where students feel comfortable. So yeah, there are a lot of different ways, a lot of apps, a lot of things. I know Green Screen Gal, Erica was on a little earlier, and I'm sure she went through some of the mindfulness exercises, and I'm sure Andrea will talk about things too. But it's really important to make sure that they feel safe.
I think that's what I was actually looking through my notes. I was like, where did I put that note? Because you told me about the polyvagal. I was like, what was that word called again? I don't know if you're going to bring it up again, but yeah, I love that part of it. Is like it's all connected to all the different parts. So like whenever your brain, whenever you're feeling stressed, whenever you're feeling worried, whenever you're not feeling safe, even in the classroom environment, there's so much more going on. So yeah, great takeaways. Thank you. And so Lua, what do you connect to that, or what are your strategies that you would like to share as well?
So I'm new to all the, how can you say, the technical terms, if you want to call it that, but I've actually realized that I've used so many different things in the classroom to try and connect the students to each other, first with relationship building and then trust. And then when they are confident enough to speak up and speak out, it becomes clear that it's so important to build these relationships. So what I have is I really believe in a calm corner. So I have a few in the classroom, actually. And with the last year with COVID, it's been a bit difficult, but we still try to create those calm corners, even online. So, and then I really believe in the fresh air, like take a break, go take some fresh air. So I have one of my students is very high on the autism spectrum, and he really needs those fresh air breaks. And so he knows that if he needs those things, he can just come to me and say, I need to go get some fresh air. And then the classroom assistant would go with him out, and then he's there for a few minutes. So I really think that those things, focusing on the small things and the small wins creates that trust within the classroom, and then they flourish. I've seen it so many times in the last year, especially because of the extra challenges that we've had. And then I really like using music in the classroom. We always have soft music in the background, not always classical music. Sometimes it's just some happy tunes. The kids love that. And again, with this little boy that I have, the autism boy, he always thinks that he has bad luck. And so we have created this good luck charm that he gets every day. And then one of the stories that I think was really a win was last week, Thursday. He was one of our superstars of the week. And I could see that it was really a win for him, because in the end, he actually said, in your face, bad luck. So he really had that win for himself last week. So yeah, all of these little things creates that trust and relationship building, and then they can work on the academics.
And I think all those little things actually are big things, because if the little things aren't there, then the big things exactly. They are they're big parts of it too. So I think the more that we can transfer these little things actually and recognize how big they are is such a big powerful conversation too. And I think like you say, I'm not I know some technological words, but for me it's more like the process and understanding what they actually mean and what they actually are. It's not about knowing all the big hippocampus. Sometimes oh, hippocampus, I find fancy, don't I? But it's actually, what does those words mean, and what are they actually doing for us and understanding our classroom too.
Yeah.
So thank you for your like really practical takeaways. And then Shannon said, that's epic. In your face, bad luck. I could picture them being it's quite cute to actually have that as well. So it's really good takeaways. Yeah. And Andrea, what about you?
Yeah, so coming from the educator side, I knew none of these skills as a new teacher. So I completely failed back then, did not make connections with my students, build relationships, totally not. I learned these skills years later. And so standing in front of a class with a curriculum that I'd written was, a different place. But trying to, like you've said, sharing where and making connections to making sure that they feel that they belong, and sharing that there were times when I didn't feel that I belonged. So being vulnerable with your class, that actually was the place that got them talking, when they're like, well, she felt this way too. And then they start raising their hands and asking questions, and then they're focused and engaged. And that's what Yanina's video was talking about. We want them to start using their central executive or thinking brain. And they do that when they feel safe and they belong. And when you're vulnerable, then they can get to that place. And you're deliberate and intentional. I had to sneak peek on John Hattie. I couldn't let the day go by without having a quick listen to what his advice was. And it was about being a deliberate and intentional teacher. And wouldn't I have been amazing if I had been deliberate and intentional back in the day, but I was just trying to get through the end of the day and the end of the year. So thank you for doing these conferences, Naomi, because they really do help and provide skills for everybody. And then when the students are doing meaningful work, so once they're safe and they're asking questions, then apply the meaning to it. So I remember there were a couple of students that were interested in cars. And so how would I tie my question that I'm asking on, my curriculum to what they're interested in? And it wasn't too difficult to say, well, how would you think about this with the work you're doing on cars? Or, one kid really enjoyed movies, and so tie in a movie to that. Just these quick connections make work meaningful. And then you see them starting to think, and they're looking up at the ceiling, and that's when their imagination networks open. And that's when those aha moments are happening, and then learning's happened, and it wasn't by accident, it was deliberate.
I think that's what I liked about, like Shannon said in our previous session, we talked about the imagination, like the default mode and like the imagination at work and things like that. And I think just like a little takeaway in that space, Andrea, that you were talking about in that imagination at work, what could you just maybe expand on that? Could you give a good definition of that the last time?
Yeah, and I really thought about it with Yanina's video. So she talks about we've got to have students focused and engaged, and that's when they're in the central executive network, and that's when they're doing their work, but that's not where the imagination and the creativity is. And Sir Ken talks about it so well. He didn't get how many million views on his, Schools Kill Creativity TED Talk on accident. It was because we really need to be intentional on giving students breaks. And back in my day, looking out the window was daydreaming, and I'd get kicked back on course. But we've got to let our students take those breaks. I don't know how it would be in your classroom, but giving them a second to step away. I know how it works with my kids working from home. If I was in the classroom, giving them time to, now we're going to take 5 minutes to do some writing, and then walking around and making sure they're writing and not just sitting there, doing nothing. But you see them when they're looking up and thinking. You see the world wheels turning, and that's their imagination, what network. And they have to know how to switch from thinking, focused thought, to imagination. Like it happens to us. We talked on one of the last sessions when we go into the shower. So we step away. So we can't obviously shower in the classroom, but thinking about what are the ways that you can let your students stop thinking for a minute to get to the creativity.
And I think that's what changed my practice, is like the default, like the diffuse mode versus the focus mode. And so in my workshops, I try to do it where I'm working with the learners and like it's a focus part, like where we're focusing on like the knowledge together. But in another workshop, they might be doing the creativity part where they're taking what I've done and maybe making it into like a project that they're working on. So there's different stations. That's kind of how I am navigating it and trying to understand the minute is the stations part. So there's some stations where it's focused and we're all really focusing on this part in the workshop. But then there's other stations where it's more of a diffuse, more of a open inquiry, more of like a creative space where they don't have to have a complete objective, but it's more an inquiry objective where they're actually working and seeing other things too. So yeah, such great things. I think like Andrew said, is like attentional systems need constant refreshing. Attention is the resource that is undervalued, under-recognized, and yet so powerful. So like that attention space is really important too. So yeah, really great takeaways. I think we only have, it's like, this is one of my favorite topics in the whole world. And like it's like I have to keep moving the conversations along throughout the day, sharing little takeaways, sharing little sound bites, and sharing where they can find people. But as part of Empathetic Educators, we do delve more deeper into all these topics as well. So maybe like as part of like the end of the session, we'll go around and we'll share one little tip or trick, or like just like a little tip that maybe it is research that you found, like the polyvagal. But yeah, one of like the tip or trick that you've heard from your research and what you've done. So yeah, we'll start with Lua.
Well, like I said, I'm new to all of the terms, and I've done some of the research, read some things, but I really think just having those different opportunities for the students to just express themselves, and giving them that safe space to do so is so important. So I am amazed at what they were able to think of, even during trying times, like the things that they can come up with for a simple thing like the weather, and how they can think of these intricate systems, how to try and measure the different things in the weather was amazing to see. So really just giving them that open space and safe space so that they can share their voice. It's so important for them to speak up. So yeah, that's one thing that I would always try and do in the classroom.
And we were talking in Trevor's session, in session 3, it was like, what are you doing that they could be doing? Like, what are you doing for them that they could be doing themselves? And I think that's someone else's quote, but it's so important. Is like we can try and control, try and understand, but how are we scaffolding the experiences versus how we're letting them actually inquire and do it themselves too. So yeah, really, really important. And Eileen?
Yeah, and just linking really briefly onto that before I get to my tip, we enable students to be learned helpless by not scaffolding and giving them that ability to make their own decisions and try and fail. But the tip that I would say is to do regular check-ins with students. I know this was a big thing, especially when everybody went to remote learning last year, is how are we going to continue those relationships, and how are we going to make sure everybody's okay? And we need to check in with each other also. So the adults need to check in with each other, but especially the students, and then allowing them or teaching them or showing them that it's okay and how to show and talk about big emotions. Because students, especially during this very traumatic year, but in general, if they have things going on at home that, we wouldn't necessarily know about, not that they have to share what's happening, but the fact that they share that they are okay or they're not okay. And that should be done on a daily basis, and sometimes more than that, depending on where your students are coming from, and like Andrea said, the intentionality of it is just so important. So that would be the tip, would be the check-ins with each other and just the sharing big emotions.
I think that's what like Dr. Harvest said is quite rightly, because he's been through all the sessions, most of the sessions. I think it's six sessions, and it is like another thing coming through all the different parts is like the learners express themselves in different ways. And I think that's so important, is like how are we allowing them to express themselves in those different ways as well. And I think Debbie shared a strategy where if learners, like you say, they need to be able to express themselves, maybe be able to say how they're feeling. And sometimes as teachers we can get bogged down by like what we have to do, or like have to get on to the next part. But she said she's created like little places where it's called a parking lot. So if the teacher can't get there right now, or can't like deal with it right that second, they say, go put your little thing in the parking lot and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So you're still validating that expression, but you can't, you have 30 or 35 sometimes learners in the space, you can't do it all the time with everyone, or else you never stop listening to what was going on. So it's like that little parking lot place is a really practical takeaway to be able to say, okay, I am going to come back to you, just not right this second, and putting those feelings, because they are important to validate those feelings and putting them away. Yeah, so really great takeaways, guys. Thank you. And Andrea?
I think the biggest one that's come up this year, it's all tied to social emotional learning, and it came up on one of the interviews, that to help students to self-advocate for themselves. and it came up with every single one of you, that things are difficult, feelings and emotions come up. And sometimes students can think, well, that doesn't matter what I really want, or this thing that I'm really upset about, I'm just going to sweep it under the rug because, I'm not important and this isn't important. And if something's important enough to a student, teaching them how to fight for what's important for them, whether it's a grade, they got a low grade, or they missed something, they forgot to hand something in, and it really messed up their average. And now they're not going to get distinguished honor roll or something. Who knows what it is? But teaching them that everything that matters to them matters, and that they have a voice, and that they have to stand up. And if something bothers them, to talk about it and not sweep things under the rug, I think is the biggest thing, because we've all been there and thought, well, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to ruffle feathers. But sometimes ruffling the feathers gets you to where you need to be. And that's where you need to be. And it's a learned skill to be able to do that.
Yeah, and like validating their voice. I think like in the second session, Evan was talking about, he said like he's engaging with me here. So I think it was about that he asked them to do a certain outcome, but he asked, could I do this way instead of that way? And initially he had said, oh no, I said this, do that. But then he was like, wait, he's engaging with me. He's asking me, can he do it his way? Is there a reason why he couldn't do it that way? Like that's okay for him to show us that. So actually, I think it was really good because he actually kind of didn't see it. He kind of shared it and he was like, oh, that's such a big thing that as teachers we can kind of want to just move forward. But sometimes taking that little step back and see what's actually going on in front of us. Why are we trying to get here when learners are kind of going towards this space is actually, it's a big shift in our mindset of actually what's going on. But the more we can have conversations like this and feel more comfortable with that, it's really good. Yeah. So like it's Celeste, definitely self-advocacy is a skill, and where they're getting their validation from, it's not just a grade, it's actually all the different parts that are coming towards it too in education. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your practical takeaways. And like I said, it's all those things could go on for 2 hours session, but we have to keep moving forward with all the different things that's going on today as well. So we'll just go around and let people know where they can find you, where they can see you. I'm going to take off the little thing just so people can see your names and see where they can find you and what work you're doing as well. So yeah, we'll start with Andrea this time. Your last couple of times. So Andrea, let us know where where you are, where we can find you, what you're doing, what you're working on. Let us know.
Definitely. You can find me at achieveit360.com, or just put my name into Google and you'll see the podcast, Neuroscience Meets Social Emotional Learning. And the biggest thing right now is the third book that I just have no idea how I'm going to do with time, but that's the next step. So you'll see everything we've been involved in the past 20 years or so, mostly content creation for character and leadership for students.
Beautiful. And all those links are going to be as part of this as well. So as part of like the website, they're all going to be in the resource pack too. So that's all available for the audience. And yeah, Eileen, let us know a little bit about you, where we can find you, what you're working on. Let us know.
Yes, mostly about belonging. I am in the process of publishing a book. I hope it will be out by the end of the summer or early fall. And so take a look for that. It's coming out from EduMatch. My podcast, Journeys to Belonging, is available on most of your favorite podcast platforms. And I blog. I haven't been blogging the past month, but I'll probably pick that up over the summer now that I have a little bit more time. And I'm at Eileen Winokur on most social media. And so I look forward to interacting with everybody. And it's been wonderful. Thank you for putting us together, Naomi. This has been fantastic.
Really great having you on board. Thank you. And Lua.
I'm still trying to find my feet kind of to where exactly I'm going towards, but it's definitely leaning on mindfulness and kindness and empathy in the classroom. So who knows what happens in the next few months? Maybe I write a book, maybe I start a blog, but I am really inspired by everyone here. So thank you for that. But if you want to find me on Twitter or Insta, I am Miss Lua _edu. So that's me.
And you've got lots of connections. That's why I love, like, we all
a lot of
connect
connections.
you connect little dots and like connect people and things like that, which is really, really great to like have as like part of the community too. So yeah, thank you so much. All different places, all different stages in our careers and our spaces, but we're really great to all learn together and learn with each other too. So the chat and the audience, and really, really good to have this conversation and all the takeaways. And we've had session 6. How crazy! It's like, it's so much learning. My brain is literally going to be like, you know so much. What are you talking about? What are you doing? I'm going to try and go to sleep tonight. I'm going to have too much trying like new thoughts in my head. But yeah, such great thinking and such great learning as well. So I'm going to take a little photograph of our chat and us together. And yeah, just so we have a little memory for what we're doing. So 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. So I am going to just share the next session and just a little reminder of what you can find. So like I said, we have amazing stuff from Yania. You can find her and all the details here, and the link will be below and in the resources. Talking about resources, it's all going to be at bit.ly/EEConQuest 2021. So if you're catching up and you haven't registered yet, all these resources and all the clips will be on there as recordings after this day of learning is happening, and you can find everything on there. So if you have enjoyed and you have wanted to learn more about Empathetic Educators, you can find me at Naomi_Toland on Twitter, and you can subscribe on YouTube, Naomi Toland, because there'll be a lot more stuff coming out in Empathetic Educators over the next couple of months. So subscribe, and like from what you're getting on the show too. So our next session coming up is our session with John Hattie and our co-host Lauren, and our fantastic guests coming on as well. So you can find that at bit.ly/EEConQuest07, or you can find it on our live online portal as well. So I am so happy that you guys were on board and enjoyed, and really great takeaways as well for our nerdy neuroscience networking things. So thank you so much, and thank you to the audience.
Thank you, Naomi.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Thank you all. Nice to see you.
Team.
Bye-bye.
Bye.